welcome to the December edition of Takoma Coffee House, where in the next hour we'll look at what the hell is going on in the global economy, chat with ex-Takoma Park Mayor Ed Sharp about his plans for the future, we'll ease your sore muscles with a therapeutic massage, and tune into the sounds of award-winning singer-songwriter Prasada-Rao. Then we'll eavesdrop in on what Takomans are reading and what videos they're watching, and be treated to poetry and conversation with DJ Renegade. Hi, and welcome to Coffee House Forum. If you're like me, the daily ups and downs in the economy either barely register, or if they do, they make no sense. Some days it seems like these are the best of times. Low unemployment, a vibrant stock market, high consumer confidence. Then other days, the world economic system appears to be teetering on the brink of collapse. The Asian economic miracles of yesterday are today hat in hand before the International Monetary Fund. So the question this edition in the Coffee House is, the economy. What's going on? And what does it mean for everyday Americans? With me to try to sort this out are Takoman Larry Mishel, the research director at the Economic Policy Institute, and Jerome Levinson, international law professor at American University. Jerry is the former general counsel to both the Inter-American Redevelopment Bank and to the late Senator Frank Church's Subcommittee on Multinational Corporations. Thanks for joining me in the Coffee House. Let's start with Larry. In a nutshell, are these the best of times economically?
Well, Mark, there are some good things going on in the economy. Unemployment is low. It's lower than it's been in a few decades. Inflation is down. We're creating jobs. Most remarkably, wages are growing faster than inflation for most of the workforce. That's something that we haven't seen for many years. So I would say that the economy is getting better. Is the economy good? Would I rate it an A+? The answer is no, because we've been down so long, we're still in the hole. For instance, most families still have less income today than they did in 1989 before the business cycle began. The wages of a typical worker are still substantially down from what they were at the beginning of the business cycle. So our task is how to keep the economy going and growing until people can recoup all the ground that they lost and start moving ahead.
The news from Asia, however, has been pretty alarming recently, Jerry. We hear from the Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, from the International Monetary Fund, that the problem in Asia, the reason that South Korea and Thailand and Indonesia and the Philippines have all gone before the International Monetary Fund for a bailout is because of lax banking policies, largely at the behest of supporting government policy, industrial policy in those countries. And they've made bad loans. Now they have big, bad portfolios. Is that your understanding of what's happened in Asia?
Well, I think that's a partial explanation, but it's really only partial. Because what you have to keep in mind is that for every borrower, there is a lender. Now the question is, how were these borrowers able to access billions and billions of dollars in the international financial markets from the leading financial institutions in the world? United States, Japan, Western European. How is it that all of these institutions loan these tens of billions of dollars to these institutions for what turn out to be many uneconomic purposes? How is it that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, to which you referred, the World Bank, weren't able to anticipate that South Korea was going to be in a situation where it couldn't meet its obligations in the first quarter of the coming year? South Korea has about $20 or $30 billion coming due from these international financial institutions, which loan this money to Korean banks and Korean conglomerates.
So how is it? How is it that this is happening?
Well, because I think that there has been a tremendous amount of liquidity in the international financial markets. The banks found that their margins were very low in the United States, Western Europe, and Japan. So they started lending to these countries and to the banks and the industrial enterprises in these countries, believing that in the end, the United States, Japan, the International Monetary Fund, and all the international institutions would bail them out of any bad loans. And they came to this conclusion, in my opinion, in large part because of what happened with Mexico in 1995. Remember, under the United States leadership, the international financial community mobilized $48 billion. That was called a bailout for Mexico, but it was a bailout really for the financial institutions which loaned that money to Mexico. So the same institutions seem to have concluded that they can take these high risks in these high-risk countries with these high-risk borrowers, and if things go wrong, the international community will bail them out.
But isn't
and
it
you know
the
what?
case
They're right.
Isn't it the case, though, that at least what we're hearing is that the International Monetary Fund is insisting that in return for the bailouts, that these countries institute stricter banking regulatory policies?
Well, I think that again, doesn't go to the heart of the problem. The question, for example, take Indonesia. Mr. Greenspan, in his testimony before the House Banking Committee, referred, and Undersecretary Summers, Undersecretary of the Treasury, Larry Summers, referred to the need for better supervisory institutions. Well, the question you have to ask is, why in Indonesia aren't there effective supervisory institutions? Greenspan said we have to train better loan officers. I think that's very naive. There aren't effective supervisory institutions because the clique around Suharto and his own family found it very convenient not to have effective supervision, not to have effective loan officers, because they were lending to themselves, essentially.
So this is the same as we used to hear in the Philippines, that it was a system of crony capitalism.
Absolutely. A perverted form of crony capitalism.
Now, there's another theory out there, which is that the problem is really that there were a flood of investments that went to Asia because all of a sudden the investing community came to believe that this is where they're going to make a lot of money. And then all of a sudden they panicked and withdrew the money. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, for instance, Mahathir Mohamad, says that the problem in Asia is currently caused by Western currency speculators. Is there anything to that?
Well, I think that there is something to that theory, that the global capital, the movements of global capital punish these countries. There's situations of overcapacity where there's more that can be produced than can be purchased. And we used to praise all these countries because they were export-led, supposedly free market countries. They were supposed to be symbolic of what all third world countries should do. Now we look at them and say, oh, well, we were wrong about them. But what really made them go was that they were able to sell tons and tons to the United States. And I think one of the big questions before us now is, are they going to get out of their trouble by, in fact, exporting even more to the United States, which means that it may displace American jobs, put further downward pressure on American wages. Plus, in order to bail them out, raised worldwide interest rates, which will slow down our economy and all of the advanced country economies.
And it will slow down all economies,
the world
I gather.
Economy, yeah.
And is there the danger? We're beginning to hear this word that I think fell out of the economic vocabulary of the country for the last 20, 25 years, deflation. We all know what inflation is. That's when prices rise and people get scared out of investing and consumers can't purchase products for the same price. What's deflation?
Well, deflation is when you have the capacity to produce more goods than there is effective demand for those goods. And that's what happened, for example, in the semiconductor industry. The Koreans invested massively in the semiconductor industry with money which they raised in the international financial markets from these financial institutions. The price collapsed. And then these institutions weren't able to earn, these borrowers weren't able to earn the money to repay the loans. But I want to make one point before we leave this question of responsibility and how this works out, because you really have a bizarre situation which is being proposed. The people who contributed to the problem, namely the international financial institutions, they're going to get paid off 100 cents on the dollar. And not only that, under the conditions imposed by the International Monetary Fund as part of this package, which the U.S. Treasury fully supports, the South Koreans are going to have to open their financial markets, which may be a good thing, and their financial institutions. These institutions, international banks, are then largely American and Japanese, are then going to come in and buy up at bargain basement prices South Korean assets. The people who had nothing to do with the development of the crisis, namely workers in South Korea and workers in the United States, are going to pay the price. You're going to raise interest rates. You're going to constrict the Korean economy, so economic activity is going to grind to a halt except for exports, which means that you're going to have, according to the New York Times, you're going to have double or triple the level of unemployment in South Korea, to take that as an example. And at the same time, as Larry just said, these countries think that they're going to export their way out by exporting to the United States. The West Europeans are not going to let their exports in, with 11 to 12% unemployment in France and Germany. The Japanese, we know, throw up all kinds of barriers to exports from these countries. So they're planning on exporting to this country, which is going to create exactly the situation that Larry described. There's no equity in this system. This burden is not being equitably shared.
Well, let's talk about what should happen then. We have a situation where the IMF and the World Bank are going to set terms for these governments and economies. Are there terms that they should be considering that they currently aren't, that might help to remedy this situation?
Well, let's take Indonesia for a moment, again, which illustrates the limitations of the current approach. The current approach, sponsored by the IMF and the U.S. Treasury, is that the Indonesians will let a couple of banks fail in which the president's sons have an interest, and that they will modify the import monopolies that they have had, again dominated by friends of the Suhartos and the Suharto family itself. And Mr. Kamdesu, who is the managing director of the IMF, goes down to Indonesia and tells General Suharto that if you do these things, you'll come out stronger in the end. But how did they get into that mess with this form of crony capitalism? There were no free trade unions. There's no free press. There's no effective opposition. There's no independent judiciary. So there were no institutions which could call the governing clique to account.
So are you saying that what we should do is insist in our trade relations, or have the IMF, the United States should argue that the IMF should insist that some floor be set regarding labor standards?
Well, let's be careful about that, about labor standards, because we're not trying to impose U.S. standards from here. What we are saying is that if you look at how this crisis arose in a country like Indonesia, without these checks and balances, if you don't address those checks and balances, what's to prevent it from happening again? So it's perfectly legitimate to raise with the Suharto government the fact that there are no free trade unions, and what you want to have is Indonesian workers able to negotiate on their own behalf. You want to have an opposition political party which can raise questions about the uneconomic policies being followed.
We're running out of time, so I want to talk a little bit about how, if we were to do that, let's say that that were to be realized, and I'd say it's a long shot that it will be, but if it were realized, what impact would it have, Larry, on the U.S. economy, if any?
Well, the direction we're going now is maybe to further deflation, which will maybe send more imports here to make the economies in Asia grow even more slowly. That's going to hurt our ability to export. That's going to slow down our growth. And these are the kind of things that may tip us into a recession, especially if we start having higher interest rates in our country and around the world as a result of this. So it's just part of the fact that we live in a much more volatile world. And the global economy is filled with lots of countries that we trade with that don't have the kind of institutions that we do, and it's a very risky type of situation. It makes me wonder why there's this pell-mell wish to globalize, put the not only fast track the metal, foot on the pedal, pedal to the metal. I don't understand.
We're going to have to put the foot on the brake right now for this discussion. Hopefully we've put some of what's going on in the economy in perspective and offered a few handles for making sense of the constant barrage of contradictory economic information we confront. Thanks to Larry Mishel and Professor Jerome Levinson for joining us in the coffee house. Yet to come, hands-on massage therapy, music by Tom Prasada-Rao, What Takoma is Reading and Watching, poetry by DJ Renegade, and The Changing of the Guard. On November 17th, Cathy Porter was sworn in as the first female mayor of Takoma Park. She replaces Ed Sharp, who after 3 two-year terms as mayor decided not to seek re-election this year. Inquiring minds want to know, what now for Ed Sharp?
Well, I don't intend to fade away. There are some issues that I'm going to continue to work on in the housing area in particular. I'm also interested in what's going on with the cable franchise renegotiation, and I may be able to do some work on that. So I do intend to do some things around the city to keep myself busy.
What on the cable front?
Well, you know, the franchise is coming up, and there's some, at the federal level, there's some efforts to deregulate in such a way that could theoretically threaten the ability of local governments to have cable operations even. And that's a great concern to me, because I think that notwithstanding the criticisms over the years that our cable station has received, I think it's an important way that the city communicates with the people in Takoma Park, and I'd hate to see that go away.
And on the housing front?
Affordable housing has been a long-term interest of mine. Mark Elrich and I have worked on this issue for a number of years. I think the city needs to take a more assertive role in providing various opportunities for people to purchase there where they live. I've got some ideas that Mark and I have worked on over the years that I'd like to help further along in that regard.
Do you think that the community really appreciates the work that you and council members have done over the years?
Yes. I know that during an election that isn't necessarily the time that you see it expressed, but over the years people have expressed their gratitude to me in particular, and certainly have in these last several weeks. I think in terms of the things that you get an opportunity to do, they have made up for what is also a lot of tedium. The Dominic Dawes Parade, when the National League came to Washington, the National League Expansion Committee, I got to meet the various officials, baseball officials, when that happened. When the hiker-biker trail was dedicated, we got to spend that glorious day out enjoying that. There have been a number of things like that that have been great fun.
But hasn't it taken a significant toll on your personal life?
It has taken time. There's no question about that, and that's simply something that anybody has to realize if they're going to do this. There's no question about that.
And any words of wisdom to Kathy Porter in assuming the role as mayor?
Well, I've talked with her about it. I think that one of the things that she understands is that the city as a whole is more varied than her ward has been, and she will hear many, many more voices coming from many more different places than she has up until now, and she's going to have to figure out a way, which I'm sure she will, figure out a way of dealing with all that. But you know, there's a lot more diversity in the city than a lot of people realize.
Any interest in other political offices in the future?
I don't think so at this point, but never know.
Okay, great.
Hello and welcome to In Sickness and in Health. There's probably hardly an adult alive who hasn't attempted a bit of amateur massage on another person. It may help on the relaxation front, but if it's muscle pain relief you're after, there are plenty of professional massage therapists out there who will get to the bottom of your problem more effectively. Massage is an ancient body therapy that focuses on soft tissues, primarily muscles, but also connective tissue, whereas chiropractic and osteopathic therapists work on the hard tissues or bones. The stereotype of a hefty therapist pounding on someone's back has long faded away, and today's massage is done effectively by people of all shapes and sizes. And here are Hedy Sladovich and Inga Rothrock to talk about their profession. Inga's practice is at Crossings, the Center for Healing Traditions in Takoma Park, and she also teaches applied kinesiology studies in Herndon. Hedy is a clinical supervisor and instructor at the Potomac Massage Training Institute and has a part-time private practice in Takoma Park. Welcome.
Yeah, hi.
There are lots of ailments that can be effectively tackled and cured by massage. Could you perhaps list some of the many of them? Inga, would you like to start?
Oh, wow. Well, one thing that I've been teaching my students about lately is sciatica, a pain that kind of runs down the back of the leg, which can be caused by kind of a pressure on the sciatic nerve, which is really intensely painful. And that's something that through stretching and massage can really be helped. Through
Headaches, what about?
Headaches, too, can often be relieved by massage, depending on the kind of headache, tension headaches.
Sports injuries.
Sports injuries.
Just back to the headaches for a minute.
Yes.
You have vascular headaches also, which are the migraine category, which is simply a blood vessel dilation problem. Tension headaches are muscularly related.
Right, so those are the kind that can be helped through massage usually.
We do far less manual work today than we used to 50 years ago, but there are certain ailments that come from the workplace, very different to the old ones. Perhaps, Hedy, you'd like to comment on some of those.
Yes, I think we've all heard about repetitive strain injuries.
Yes.
And it isn't just limited to people who work with computers, it's anyone who does a regular activity during the day. You even have the weekend repetitive strain injury, someone who rakes the leaves.
Right,
I've
seen a lot of those lately, gardening in the spring.
Who hasn't done that motion for a long time, and so they keep doing it using the same side, and they may find they have some aches and pains they're not used to. And mostly that is making someone aware of their body movement pattern, helping to relieve the immediate pain, and then just encouraging them to balance things out. If it gets really acute, like in the case of carpal tunnel syndrome, which affects the bones and how they're arranged up in the upper arm near the elbow, and then that changes the relationship of 7 bones in your wrist, such that the inflammation in combination with the shift in the bones makes this space very small. And so in addition to someone who may be hyperextending, we call this hyperextension, this is flexion, hyperextension, that makes the space even smaller. And so the sheathing in there gets very irritated, and this can affect the elbow, the shoulder, and neck.
So typists, piano, what about massage therapists? I mean, is there danger also?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And one of the things that we do in school is we're constantly asking the students to embody the work, meaning to include themselves in the bubble of care by taking care of themselves first, positioning themselves properly, transferring the power from the feet up through the body, and
to use a lot of body weight instead of just standing still and doing massage work with the hands, to do strokes that really would use the entire body weight so that your arms and hands and the muscles don't get tired, but so that your whole body through the bones all the way up through your body can take the stress of a movement and not cause fatigue.
They said in the old days with the hard typewriters that people used to pound on, it was actually better for your wrists than these lightweight things that
people get lazy
today.
And they tend to rest their wrists, and then they go into that hyperextension that Hedy was talking about, and then move those same muscles around and cause a lot of inflammation in that area.
Some people would ask a friend, can you just massage this part of me? I feel really sore on my shoulder or wrist. Is there a danger in that, actually, of an amateur tackling something that perhaps should be done by a professional?
I have mixed views on that.
Yes.
I feel like really in the long run massage is good and isn't harmful, and if done in the right spirit won't be harmful. But there definitely are reasons not to do massage, some contraindications for massage that somebody might get more inflamed after getting massage, that kind of thing.
Joint.
So there are certainly reasons why a professional massage could be a better route than an amateur massage, but I don't have any problems with friends giving each other back rubs and things.
Because you'd say when it hurts.
Right, hopefully.
I'd like to talk a little bit about technique. We actually have a video of Hedy doing some work on our director of this program. We're just about to run the video. There he is, Ray Davis. Can you explain what techniques you're undergoing here?
Well, in this case, I'm doing a little bit of mobilization. He had mentioned he had discomfort in his gluteal area, which are the buttocks and down the back leg, and he had sort of self-diagnosed himself as having sciatica. So I was just mobilizing and asking him if he was experiencing any discomfort at that point.
And this, I think we just saw a chart of the different parts of the body.
I think that was a trigger point chart, but it went by somewhat fast. Here what I'm going to do is basically look at the possibility of nerve compression from a muscle in the buttocks by doing compression and then moving the leg. And then here I'm just supporting some of the work in the upper body with what I was doing around the pelvic area.
Ray looks like he's asleep there.
Clients can easily fall asleep on the table.
Yes, and here's the trigger point chart. It's simply a map of the possibilities for referrals when you experience discomfort. Many times the way the nervous system is wired up is that the actual pain perception will go somewhere else.
Right.
And the actual pain experience will be under your finger, but you'll have a perception of discomfort distally. And here I'm just doing a little more focused work around the edge of the pelvis and the sacrum. The sacrum is a sort of a triangular structure that kind of fits like a wedge into the two halves of the hip.
He looks quite contented.
And then I'm finishing up with an active resisted stretch. And this is just simply where he's resisting me a little bit. The concept is called reciprocal inhibition. So basically a muscle only knows how to do one thing, contract. So if I am engaging one part, then the other part is not getting a message contract, and I can actually get someone into a flexion that they normally wouldn't be able to do themselves, or would take them a half hour to get to if they were just doing slow.
So that's
stretch.
what you do near the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. What is the paraphernalia involved in? There's a bed there, obviously, and some oils as well that you use on the body?
Depending on how deeply you're going to work,
Yeah.
you may or may not want to use lubrication.
Right.
And
there are
Jerome?
times when I work deeply that if I had a lot of oil, I'd be sliding and I wouldn't be able to get really good contact. So in those cases, when I know I'm going to want to work more deeply, I'll use a cream that doesn't have the same kind of viscosity, or I won't use any oil at all for that area as I'm working deeply.
What about aromatherapies? Are those used much with massage, and what would be the benefit?
People can be certified in aromatherapy and take years of training. I personally haven't, so I don't use any aromatherapy oils or anything in my practice. Do you?
I use it in a very simple way, just some of the simpler scents like lavender for calming, eucalyptus for energizing, and sometimes I mix it into the oil, sometimes I just put it onto a little atomizer that I put onto a light bulb and it just diffuses into the air naturally.
Some people regard massage as maybe a luxury, a little expensive, but there are different scales of how much treatment one can get and how focused the treatment is. Can you perhaps run over a little bit about how much someone should expect to spend for certain ailments? Inga?
Oh gosh, for certain ailments, that's an interesting question, because some people come in maybe 3 or 4 times a year purely for relaxation, and other people come in with a presenting symptom like sciatica, which you were just working with. Some people come in with a presenting symptom and they might come once a week for a series of weeks until it really starts to subside, and then the treatments will be spaced out every 2 weeks, once a month. And other people come in for one treatment and really feel like their whatever it is they've been coming in, that they came in for, was addressed. So it's really very different. I don't even think that there's a statement of, for headaches it'll be 3 sessions or anything. I don't think it's possible to make a statement like that.
What is the range of costs in this area for how much one should expect to pay per session?
Recent graduates from programs will probably charge $35 to $45. Someone who's been in practice and has advanced training and advanced certifications may charge up to $70, depending on their training, their certification, and how long they've been in practice. And there are also physicians who are trained to do manual therapy, physiatrists or physicians who specialize in muscular disorders. A lot of times they'll have massage therapists and physical therapists actually doing the treatments, but they're the one who's done the diagnosis. And in terms of what you're actually paying for a treatment. And massage therapists are not trained to diagnose disorders. So many times they'll ask you, is this something that your doctor said? Or are you just assuming that this is what it is? Because my approach would be very different. And I might even say, if it's something I don't know about or I want some guidance, I may call the doctor and say, is there anything I should know or stay away from?
Well, we've got so much ground still to cover, but we have run out of time. A very big thank you to Hedy Sladovich and Inga Rothrock for telling us about how we can banish those disrupting and aggravating muscle aches and pains. Till next time, in sickness and in health, I'm Cathy Kristiansen.
Still to come, singer-songwriter Tom Prasada-Rao on musical traditions and poet DJ Renegade on writer's block.
Turn brown in the autumn sun, red and silver, gold and plum. Trees come down like the Amazon rain, but standing next spring will turn green again. That's the way of the world. The highway paved over forest fields, cars roll by in the buffalo hills. Nothing grows in an asphalt pit. Flowers on the median street. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the world. Take a picture, don't forget it. A little bit of heaven is all you get. Strong, keep you through the winter, 'cause it might be long. Stars poke out of a smog-lit sky. Say good night, then say goodbye. Winter haze, now back to still shine in your head. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the world.
Howdy, gang.
Hey, David.
Tom Prasada-Rao, John Hanlon. I'd like to welcome you both to Musical Traditions segment of Takoma Coffee House.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for making it. Tom, I was thinking about this when we were warming up, that you sort of personify world music. You were born to be world music. Now, let me see if I got this right.
Okay. All right.
Your name is, you have Indian parents?
Right.
Were both parents Indian?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, but you were born in?
Ethiopia.
And you grew up in?
Takoma Park.
That's Takoma Park, Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
And that's world music before the term was even thought about.
Well, great.
And
yeah. That's good to know.
Amazing sound. Help me, Tom. Help me here.
Oh yeah. We do world music.
And then from Hyattsville, Maryland. I mean,
that's right.
That's pretty worldly.
Yeah, it's pretty cosmopolitan right there.
It is a hackneyed term, but how do you describe your music? If somebody's, do you think of yourself as a singer-songwriter?
Generally, that's what I tell them.
Yeah.
Generally, I say, well, I write songs, I sing, and play the guitar. Yeah, that kind of thing.
But it comes out different.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
How many albums right now?
3 albums.
We still say albums.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just did my 3rd album. It's called "Hear You Laughing." At HMT.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's always an upbeat theme running, at least most of the songs that I'm most familiar with.
Right.
When I hear them, there's a warmth to them, and that I think people appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
How about another upbeat tune?
Sure. Yeah.
Take it away.
It's called Sleeping Beauty. Little Prince Charming wouldn't play. Picked up all his toys and walked away. No happy ending, final kiss. Bet you never thought that you'd end up like this. Now you wait in disbelief till someone sweeps you off your feet. You can walk a million miles, make a million smiles in the line of duty, but you don't have to make believe, 'cause everyone can see you're a sleeping beauty. Beautiful dreamer away. You've been dancing round your dreams at its game. All the right steps and all the right moves. So what you want and what you got to prove. All those demons in the dark will scatter when you wake your heart. You can walk a million miles, make a million smiles in the light of duty, but you don't have to make believe, 'cause everyone can see you're a sleeping beauty. No sugar daddies, no cavalry ride, no tossing and turning till love's in your sides. Yeah, you can walk a million miles, make a million smiles in the light of duty, but you don't have to make believe, 'cause everyone can see you're a sleeping beauty. Yeah. You can walk a million miles, make a million smiles in the light of duty, but you don't have to make believe, 'cause everyone can see you're a sleeping beauty. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. You know, sometimes I get lost in this music when you guys play. I think, oh wait, I got to come back out and talk more about it. And I want you to just keep playing, but we got to talk a little bit. What would be an ideal gig for you if you could pick a gig? I mean, you know, opening for the Stones, not something silly, but just what works for you with an audience?
Oh man, well, I would love to open for Bruce Cockburn. He's like my idol, so
Okay.
that would be great.
So anybody listening out there that
Yeah,
knows
that's right.
Bruce,
Yeah, if you know
but Bruce Cockburn is the idol.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So that's a major influence, but obviously.
major. Yeah,
Anyone else?
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Joni
Yeah, I
Mitchell.
hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
For the guitar techies out there, explain your rig here. What's going on? Who made the guitar? It's an odd enough shape.
Yeah, this is a Breedlove guitar, small manufacturer from Oregon.
All right.
And my rig is I have a Sunrise pickup here.
Now that's a small company.
Yeah,
That's
Sunrise
one
is a very
guy,
small company.
the equivalent of sits there winding them
Right,
up
yeah,
himself.
winding them by hand. And
Then I have a piezo pickup here, and it goes to a preamp, a stereo preamp, and then to the board.
Right, so anybody doing sound for you, it's kind of a dream. And I've done sound for you a number of times in other settings, because all of this comes as a pre-mixed signal. Right up, and people come back at the end of the gig and go, "Great sound tonight," and they say it to me, but really they should be saying it to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
You got another great sound left in there?
Yeah, I do.
All right, take us home.
Anyway.
Take us home.
All right, this is called Ella's Angel. They played Ella Fitzgerald on the station when she died, like they knew she'd be returning, like she'd know how hard they tried, and every melody whispered her fate, every note just a little too late. They played Ella Fitzgerald on the radio like I played you. One by one, turn by turn, step by step, bridges burn, strike a match, tend the fire, and conspire for your return. We were given Ella's angel. I was given you to know, but those wings they hover lightly. Angels come and angels go. Sometimes you'll hear them again in a song. Sometimes you'll see them, but never for long. Thought I saw you singing softly, just a song before you go. One by one, turn by turn, step by step, bridges burn, strike a match, tend the fire, and conspire for your return.
Coming up, poet DJ Renegade on Writer's Block.
If every picture tells a story, doesn't every popular song? Aren't there always stories in music? The connection between literature and music has always been an interesting one in my mind. They have in common rhythm and repetition, the play between theme and variation, timing, and even crescendo. They are structured alike. A good piece of writing should move you the way music does. It should take you from the beginning to the end of some sort of change or transformation. This edition, my guest is an artist who has worked in both the music business and the literary world. DJ Renegade wrote rap songs and worked as a disc jockey in Washington, D.C. for a number of years before becoming a poet. Today, he is the author of a poetry collection, 4,000 Shades of Blue. He is also a member of Writers' Corps and teaches at Berry Farms in Southeast D.C. Thanks for joining us at the Coffee
Thanks
House.
for having me.
You're a performance poet,
Right.
which is different in the sense that you are used to what does it mean? Tell us.
It means that I'm used to getting up on stages and performing my work.
Yes, and that you used to be involved in the music business. It's sort of it's a nice step, but beyond that, I think.
Right.
So.
Well, actually, it's kind of natural because one of the things I did when I was in the music business was rap, and rap is a form of performance poetry.
Absolutely. And one of the poems you're going to do for us is, what's Diminuendo?
Diminuendo in Blue.
Please.
Right. Yeah. Okay, this piece is titled after a piece of music by Duke Ellington, and he appears in the poem. Diminuendo in Blue. Brothers and sisters, today I'm preaching from chapter 107, verse 1 of the Royal Blue Book of Ellington. And on the third day, the good Duke told a story old as blue-green algae, how love is the devil in a tight blue dress, eyes flashing like a bluefish, tongue poisonous as blowfish. It'll have you at the crossroads, black as a blueberry, blue as a jay, with all your feathers in disarray. Don't you know, love will leave you navy, wavy, baby blue, sleeping in a doorway on the avenue, blue as two frost-bitten fingers. Can I get a witness? Brothers and sisters, love will make you melancholy as a muted trumpet, bluer than a cloudless sky, bluer than a Viking's eye. Love will leave you strangled with a blue ribbon tangled in your beard. Can't you see through these shades of blue? Something stuck to your shoe and it ain't money. There's a blue moon rising. It's going to leave you St. Louis blue, thin as bamboo in a leaky canoe with all your bills past due. Love will leave you with a lead belly, blind as a lemon, hotter than the sun's house. Do you hear me, brothers and sisters? Love will torment you with a blade of bluegrass till you're hot under the blue collar, a blue chip on your shoulder and an indigo joke stuck in your throat. Please, read this whole blue note and coming out of the gap between clouds or you'll be sour as blue cheese. Love hurts like a thumbscrew, lasts like a tattoo, locks you into a rubber room with a view. Blue devils dancing in your brain, a blue heron flying through your veins. Love makes you sing the blues in 12 bars that overcharge for the same sorry drinks. Raise a hand if you hear me tonight, brothers and sisters. Love is a blue bottle fly flitting between purple and green. Wings raggedy as a pair of old jeans. Merci beaucoup. Love is Winnie the Pooh doing voodoo in corrective shoes. It tracks a trailer through your bruised heart, leaving blueprints marked in the snowy part. Love is salty as cashews, crooked as corkscrews, bitchy as a blue crab, itchy as a new scab, and scientifically proven to lower your IQ. Love mails all its letters with the postage due. Now let the church say, Amen.
Amen. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's really, and I hear the music all the way through with your rhythm.
Yeah, actually, with this poem, I tried to make it move the way that music moves. So things are connected in ways that may not necessarily be linear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you said earlier, when we were talking before, about rap music having set you up as a poet, that you didn't know it at the time.
Right. When I was 16 when Rapper's Delight came out, and it kind of changed the world for us, hip-hop did. And so I started, like a lot of other kids, I started writing raps. And actually I became a DJ so that I could have my own microphone at parties and I wouldn't have to go ask another DJ to let me rap. And it just, DJing paid more money than rapping, so I ultimately became a form of employment. Mm-hmm. But rapping seriously informed my poetry, and one of the reasons is that in order to be a poet, you have to have a good sense of rhythm, mm-hmm. and you have to have a sense of how language moves. how the language that you're writing in moves. And rap has a very tight metrical system. It's a 4-beat line because it's written mostly to four music that's in 4/4 time. Although rap is not in 4/4 time, it works against 4/4 time. It's syncopated. And so you have to be able to juggle these 4 beats against the musical bar, and you develop a sense of that.
And would you make a drastic shift now and read us another poem, but this one about Christmas? It's called
Mama After Midnight.
Mama After Midnight? Okay.
Right. Mama After Midnight. It's Christmas Eve, and the projects in Pittsburgh lay under the heavy silence of snow. Icy air whirls at the windows, its fingernails feeling for cracks. My mama's in the bathroom with a tub full of hot water and a can of Comet cleanser. See, every day of the last 4 months has found her at the thrift store, picking and fussing through piles of secondhand toys like they were fruit for her baby's lunchboxes. Now, the envious eyes of Santa's elves watch her thin hands scrub a tiny truck until it glows. After drying each item with the soft tongue of a towel, she starts down the hallway, pauses outside our bedroom door to marvel at our shallow sleeping breaths, then treks on to the flashing tree where she lays her presents like the most precious of eggs. In the morning, we'll awaken in a burst and rush across the living room like running backs to pull shiny toys from under this tree, never knowing the difference.
So beautiful. It's really. Do you find that most of your material comes from one thing, or are you? I mean, where does it come from? For instance, where did that poem come from?
Well, that particular poem came out of an actual experience, just the experience of watching my mother when I was a small child. How she would go to the thrift store like all throughout the year, and she'd buy stuff, and then she'd hide the toys from us. And then at Christmas time, we got new presents too.
Sure,
but
she would do that
right,
as well.
The majority of them would be things that she got. But I'm one of those people that I take poems from wherever I can get them. And I'll write about anything I can find something significant in, or anything that troubles me.
Sure. We only have a few minutes left, but I was wondering if you would give us one more poem.
Okay. This is Flies in a Jar.
Okay.
My best friend Bruce is allergic to bees. One time, he got stung and swelled up like a vacuum cleaner bag. His mother had to give him a shot. He couldn't come out for 2 days. Encyclopedias say, if a bee sting you, they die. Bruce say grasshoppers spit tobacco juice. Sometimes we catch them and pull their legs off. The legs keep on jumping. Every time it rains, worms be making the letter S on the sidewalk. If you step on one, your shoes get real slippery. Encyclopedias say they male and female in one body. Yesterday, I saw a silverfish in my toy box. It had 1 million legs and bent like a bracelet. If one bites you, your fingernails will fall off. I saw a pregnant roach, too. I'm the best roach killer in our building. Encyclopedias say roaches carry disease, but I ain't never seen a sick roach. Bruce say you can tell a project roach because they don't run when you cut on the lights. At night, I sneak in the kitchen to see what roaches be doing when nobody's around. Encyclopedias say in some countries, people eat insects. I wonder if they eat roaches. Sometimes, me and Bruce go down to the laundry room and squash water bugs. If you're real quiet, you can hear the shell scrunch. Spiders around here are little and yellow, except Daddy Longleggers. Encyclopedias say they ain't spiders. But Latricia will still scream if you put one on her. Bruce say he saw 2 black widows in the laundry room hissing like cats. I don't believe him. His mother wouldn't let him in the laundry room by himself. When it's night enough, God turns on the fireflies. Last week, we caught some in a Coke bottle. Bruce gave them to this girl Terry he likes. She threw them away and got a nickel for the bottle. I told him he should have gave her a caterpillar. Encyclopedias say they turn into butterflies, and all girls like butterflies. Bruce say it's nature in the woods behind our projects, but everybody knows nature's in encyclopedias. Bruce be tripping.
You also lived on the street for a while yourself.
After
you stopped being a DJ?
Right. I quit my job and I spent about 2 years. I had made up this list of like 100 books that I wanted to read. And I was sitting in my living room one day trying to figure out how long it would take me to read all these books. And I was like, well, if I just quit my job and didn't do anything but read books, I could probably read them in a year. And so I did it. and I lived in like homeless shelters, and I lived on the street for about 6 months, and then I lived in homeless shelters and stuff, and I just went to the library every day and read books. And then at the end of that year, actually, is when I really decided that poetry was what I wanted to do. And so I took another year where I just read poetry and studied poetry.
And that was it, and that's how you...
Right. And
this is what we have as a result of that. So thanks so much for coming tonight.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me.
It was really a pleasure, and I wish we had more time and we could hear more from you. So. Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. Many thanks to DJ Renegade for joining me in the coffee house and sharing some of his poetry. I'm Lisa Page, and this has been Writer's Block.
That's it for the December edition. See you next year in the Takoma Coffee House.
Algebra.
If no one's explained how algebra, geometry, and calculus can improve your future, call MACNY. We'll tell you.
If you don't talk with your kids about AIDS, who knows what they'll imagine? Our free booklet can help. 10,000 eyes are on me.
Yeah. Do it, Casey, do it.
Shouting, Casey, go all the way.
Casey, do it. Score. Come on, Casey.
First base, second base, third base. Make your move today. Do it, Casey, do it. Score mighty, Casey, score.
Score.
I just don't get it. Is that what girls are for?
Must I, Amanda, take this guy to heaven to hold, to go out with and make out with, to be together and sleep together, to go all the way, 'cause they say he'll walk away, unless I do.
If you don't talk with your kids about sex, who will? Our free booklet can help.